if a deal doesn't get done. And, oh, what a night for Embiid. But the news, not all good for Philly yesterday. We'll tell you why the Sixers lost before they even took the court. All that and more as we get up with you, starting right now. Delighted to have you with us. Laura is back and better than ever. And look who is here. Torrey Smith is here. Everyone, don't bury the lead. Torrey is this morning.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my hands.
These guys are all comparing hand size. I don't know what the heck is going on around here. We'll start there with Joe Burrow, who in about an hour will be speaking to reporters at the Combine, where he will no doubt be asked about whether he wants to play in Cincinnati, which makes sense, and his hand size, which might make sense. His hand was measured to be 9 inches. That would be tied for the smallest among first-round quarterbacks since 2008. Joe Burrow, extraordinarily well, I thought, showed immediate concern for this afterwards on Twitter, posting, "I'm considering retirement after I was informed the football will be slipping out of my tiny hands. Please keep me in your thoughts." Patrick Mahomes quote tweeted that by saying, "My small hands are doing all right so far. I believe in you." Mahomes' hands were 9¼ inches when they were measured at the Combine a few years ago. So let us bring in the one and only Adam Schefter, who's live in Indianapolis and ready to go at the Combine. Shefty, there's a lot of joking around about this, but at the end of the day, what reaction do the people who actually evaluate this talent around the league have to the size of Joe Burrow's hands?
Greeny, the Combine's all about picking apart players and finding flaws. So we have found a flaw in Joe Burrow before the Combine really gets underway. And I would imagine today, later this morning, Joe Burrow is going to say that he's not going to throw here today, which will be the next debate and next issue that leads to speculation. Why isn't he throwing here? But when you've got 9-inch hands, I think that is a little bit of a factor. I don't think it's going to change the fact that he's still projected to be the #1 overall pick and go to the Cincinnati Bengals. But the fact of the matter is he's going to be playing in the AFC North. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wet. The ball's going to be slippery. The football's a little bit bigger than it was in the college game. And it could potentially be something of an issue. Not enough of an issue for the Bengals to bypass the player that many project to be the #1 overall pick, but enough of an issue that it could cause some problems at a certain point in time. And if you want a level of comparison, all you have to do is go back to compare the 9-inch hands to Kyler Murray last year, 9.5-inch hands. Baker Mayfield the year before the #1 overall pick, 9.25-inch hands. So Joe Burrow will have the smallest hands of the last 3 quarterbacks to go #1 overall. Again, something, but not enough to prevent him from going #1 overall.
All right, my crew is dying to jump in on this, and we will in a minute. But let me get to the other issues at hand here. You sent a note saying this is a huge day as far as the labor negotiations are concerned. The 17th game obviously is a major sticking point here. The players have an issue with it. How does the NFL justify expanding the season to its players?
Well, that is, I believe, the one issue that right now stands in the way of the players approving the collective bargaining agreement proposal that is on the table that would bring labor peace to the NFL for the next 10 years. And what the players object to, it's not the money, it's not the splits, it's not any of the revenue sharing, it is the 17-game regular season schedule. And when you have a league that has preached the merits of health and safety and tried to say it's looking out for player benefits, then how can you justify 17 games in the regular season schedule? And let me tell you how the NFL has tried to do that to the players. They've said basically we're going to take away 12 padded practices in the summer, which is significant. The league is going to reduce the number of preseason games to 3 from 4. It's going to give players more offseason time. And so in exchange for that one added regular season game, which is an awful lot to ask of the players, the league believes it's going out of its way to give back time off and practices off and contact off that could justify the extra game and justify not the millions, but the extra billions in the collective bargaining agreement for the players. But the players want to look across from the owners later this afternoon and hear from the owners themselves as to why they believe 17 games is a good idea. And if the owners can convince the players why it is, then maybe they'll get that deal done and have labor peace through 2029. And if they can't, then a little bit of chaos will ensue. And this is an issue that will go on and on for over the next year.
Okay, so that another one that my guys want to jump in on. We'll get to it. But one player who could be impacted by the result of all of these negotiations is the Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Why is that so significant as far as whether or not the Titans put the franchise tag on Tannehill?
Well, here's where we're going to get a gauge of whether the Tennessee Titans could potentially be players for Tom Brady. Because if they put the franchise tag on Ryan Tannehill and they can begin to do that starting Thursday, that would essentially take them out of any talks and discussions for Tom Brady. If they don't use the franchise tag on Ryan Tannehill, then that would leave them in play for Tom Brady potentially if that was a route they decided to go. But you can't tag Tannehill and go after Brady. You can't do that. So we could get a glimpse of what the Titans' thinking is starting on Thursday.
All right. Shefty, extraordinarily well done. Thank you. We will come back to you as the events warrant there at the Combine in Indianapolis. Now let me bring it to my table, and I wish everyone could see. I can see out of the corner of my eyes. I'm trying to focus on Shefty. You guys are dying to jump in here.
Yo.
Let's start with the hands, because everyone, I get it. I mean, there are reasons to sort of laugh about this, but there's also obviously reasons why they measure it. Acho, does it matter?
No. Joe Burrow's hand size, Greeny, is as relevant as his hair color. Like, it's completely and utterly irrelevant. Now, you use the combine to support a question mark. You don't use the combine to create a question mark. Greeny, Joe Burrow took 1,800 snaps over 28 games. Dude has 9 fumbles. I don't want to hear comparison to Burrow and Baker. The only thing compared between them is they both have B's in the name in which we refer to them as. There is no comparison. It doesn't matter. The only reason we're trying to say it matters and we measure it, Greeny, because we still are archaic in some of our thinking.
Tori, what do you think?
Well, I think we all have metrics that we like for our creative player, right? We want our quarterback to be 7 foot tall, 250 pounds, and have 40-inch hands. Well, he doesn't have Burger King hands, right? The little commercial. The issue with this is that it's the metrics that they've used from the past.
Yes.
To confirm, right? He doesn't turn the ball over. He balls out. Right? That's the most important thing. So his hand size is irrelevant, and it's that time of the year where you have the 5 things to dissect.
For whatever it is worth, Laura, you made the point in our meeting this morning, and you've probably seen as much of Joe Burrow as literally any reporter there is, that he has never played in the kind of game that you will have to play in regularly in Cincinnati, and that is where if there was a concern with the hand size, that's where it would come into play.
Yeah, and look, it is important to say that I think Joe Burrow should be the #1 overall pick, and I don't think there's any issue here with his hand size. As you guys brought up, the fumble numbers show that he really doesn't do it that often. But that said, it's very swampy in Baton Rouge. It's very warm in the areas where he played when he had some of his best games, as most quarterbacks do, Jeremy. They were inside domes. So when you look at what you could say from the cold weather standpoint, I guess that's something that people could bring up here. What are you hearing from that standpoint, though?
A few execs I spoke to said that in the AFC North and then teams like Buffalo, they do care a little bit, but the combine is all about confirming suspicions. So it's not a major issue. It's not at all going to affect his draft positioning. The bigger story of the combine is the mixed signals that Burrow appeared to have sent about whether he wants to be in Cincinnati, because I asked around, and Cincinnati's the wrong team to play with. There's a scenario where they could either let Burrow sit out the year if he really didn't want to be in Cincinnati, get drafted next year, or they just take Chase Young.
That's important to point out. There is a history of that. Carson Palmer retired rather than continue playing in Cincinnati, and they did. They let him sit, and they wound up getting a lot in trade value for him. So that's something he's going to address later today. Do you think we will hear him say, yes, I'm all in on being a Bengal?
Well, he hasn't yet. I don't expect him to today because he still has this leverage. There's still hopes where maybe he can facilitate a trade to a team that has a more skilled offensive play caller, better establishment. But Cincinnati is willing to play that game too. A lot of people around the league say they are the most stubborn team in the entire league that will not make trades unless absolutely forced.
The one thing I'd say about Burrow is he's not used to having his words parsed the way that happens around this time.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't be surprised to hear him just come out and say once and for all, I want to go to the Bengals, but it'll be interesting to see. Okay, the countdown continues for the Cowboys as they try to work out a long-term deal with Dak Prescott before the franchise tag deadline on March 12th. Stephen Jones acknowledged the two sides haven't talked since September, but he can't envision a scenario where the team moves on from Prescott. Here's what he said. It just kind of stopped, Stephen Jones says, was kind of where we left it. Jones said, I wouldn't say there was anything acrimonious. They felt they were done where they were. We felt like we were kind of where we were, and we never really got going again. So It's fascinating here that they're saying they haven't spoken since September about this. Let's just go to Jeremy first on the reporting side of this.
Right.
What are you hearing about that from Stephen Jones' standpoint, saying that they haven't spoken since then?
Yeah, they made him an offer with the low $30 million on average per year. It wasn't good enough, so Dak said, pause, I'm out. Let's play out the year. We will talk later. And so they just put it off, and it's been stale ever since. But I've talked to several people around the league who said if Dak wants to be a $40 million quarterback per year, he needs to play on this franchise tag, maybe even play another year in the franchise tag, go Kirk Cousins on steroids, and then when you're 28 years old in 2 years, you will get the biggest contract ever because you'll be a true free agent. That's the only way he can get there.
No, just no, and no is to the franchise tag. Here's a problem, Fowler. So many people who haven't played the game, and I always hate saying, "Oh, well, you haven't played the game," because it's typically a lazy take. But those who haven't played the game, they look at the franchise tag so flippantly. Like, oh, it's just a franchise tag. You're getting paid the average of the top 5 at your position. You have to understand. You're going to make long-term, life-changing, forever-changing, generational-changing money. If you play on the tag, Greeny, if you play on the tag, Laura, and you get hurt, you just lost the chance of that. My rookie year in Philly, I'm sitting next to my locker neighbor was Jeremy Maclin, first-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, star wide receiver. He got tagged. He tore his ACL. It cost him millions. I saw that firsthand. I don't want to see that for Dak.
Let me ask you this, Tori. If they do try to put the franchise tag on him, we've had people suggest here that he should not sign it and hold out. Quarterbacks generally don't do that. What do you think he should do?
He should go get him a house down in Cabo and go work out. He shouldn't show up. Dak's done everything that he's supposed to do. He's been a model citizen for this organization. He's played well. It's part of the marketing and it dictates itself. When I was in Baltimore, Joe Flacco did the exact same thing. He rolled the dice, he bet on himself, and he goes out there and he ends up being the highest paid quarterback in the league. Was he the #1 quarterback in the league? That's debatable. He's elite in my heart. But the reality of it is, that's the way the business was, and he earned that money.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said it that way. I mean, candidly, of course he wasn't the best quarterback in the league, but the way the system works, the next guy up gets the most money. But what happened to the Ravens after they signed him to that enormous contract?
Well, that's the business. You have a quarterback, there's a lot of cap money there. Then you have to be better at drafting the guys around you. You have to draft better pass rushers. You have to be better in draft with receivers because you don't have the money to spend there.
But the answer to the question is the team fell apart because Anquan Boldin and a lot of other guys left because they were making a lot of money. I'm not suggesting that Dak shouldn't get every penny he can, but this is what the Cowboys are looking at. They're saying it is literally robbing from Peter to pay Paul. I understand why they are trying to hold the line that they can. They don't win this fight if he makes it a fight, but I understand why they're doing it.
You're exactly right. I almost feel bad for Dak. As crazy it is to say, I feel bad for Dak because he did everything right. And in the NFL, if you do everything right, you expect to get rewarded. And in theory, he's getting robbed.
All right, we'll talk more about this as we continue. In the meantime, I want to go to the game of the night. Maybe the performance of the night for sure. In the NBA last night, the Hawks and the Sixers. Get my basketball guys in here. Farnham, how about the Sixers and Joel Embiid playing without Ben Simmons, who has a back and he's going to be out a while, and Embiid in the first half flat dominated.
Yeah, the number of touches that Joel Embiid gets when Ben Simmons out raises by about 7 or 8 touches per game. He made the most of them, shooting 71% from the field during the course of the game.
He was 8 of 10 from the floor in the first half, 21 points at halftime, and the Sixers had a 17-point lead. But fourth quarter, and we're tied. And Embiid, again, taking over by himself. Look at him working hard inside.
Yeah, so strong. His footwork is elite. When he plays with this type of motor and this sense of purpose, you can get excited and you go, okay, yeah, this is the potential of what we could see every night.
Takes it strong. That one put him at 40. Now here he goes, looking to go up to 42 as he continues. If at first you don't succeed, he tries again. He's in there now. He's at 44 points. A minute left, and they have extended the lead to a comfortable place. Now he's looking for his career high, and he's got it.
Just, again, look at where a lot of these baskets are coming from. They're 5 feet in. He's dominating underneath. This is the one to try to give him a brand new career high, showing the distance, the range, and then having fun. A little Hulk Hogan-esque right there.
49 points on the night for Embiid, but then it ends in interesting fashion. Look at this. Now, the game is going to end now. He's just going to dribble out the clock in the front court, but Kevin Huerter has other ideas.
Yeah, this caused a fight, by the way, in Kansas last month when you did this. Embiid, he didn't want to fight. He just wanted to say hello.
He didn't like it, but one way or another, at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. He would apologize for that little hand gesture there, but no apologizing for the performance. Sixers and Embiid, big night.
Best player in the world, right?
I mean, I believe I am. But when I made that statement, I didn't actually say that I was. I said that, being with, some of the best players in the world and I proved myself. That's what I said. But yeah, my bad. I do believe it. When I play like tonight, anything can happen. And I also want to say sorry for what I did at the end of the game. Y'all probably saw that on TV. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Look, this Joel Embiid having fun, as he said he's doing, is kind of fun to watch. But, Perk, you're not buying the 76ers. Why?
I'm not, and it's disturbing to watch this. I mean, he's all hyped up because he dominated the worst team in the league. We're talking about the Atlanta Hawks right now, a team that's 17-42. To me, Joel Embiid, the 76ers, they're front runners. They're a title contender at home, but on the road, they're a lottery team. And why didn't I see this same energy just this past Saturday when he went up against the Greek, the real MVP, the best player in the league? No, he disappeared. So I don't want to see him doing this against Herter and, Trae Young and all those guys, this young Atlanta Hawks team. This doesn't impress me one bit.
Yeah, I'd follow up. We were talking about this yesterday. There's multiple times early in that game against the Bucks where his hands were down, he's gapping up, giving 10, 15 feet to Giannis, and Giannis is sitting there going, okay, this is like me warming up, knocking down shots. You've got to bring this level of intensity every single night. Now, last night, their efficiency was off the charts. 51% from the field, 40% from three, and then 90% from the free throw line. That's great. But as you said, they're doing this at home. I don't buy this team one bit based on the fact that when they go on the road, they're extremely different. And, oh, by the way, now they're going to have to do it without Ben Simmons for an extended period of time.
That's the big oh, by the way. How much do they wind up missing him?
I think they miss him a ton because of his playmaking ability, his feel for the game. And not only that, he has emerged into a very solid defensive player on the outside. So when you're missing that defense on the road, all of a sudden it takes you down yet another notch for a team that already is struggling there.
With or without Simmons, my concern still exists with the 76ers. I think they're not a well put together team. I'm not a big fan of Brett Brown at all. I wasn't high on them from the start of the season, and I'm still not high on them. I think they'll be out first, second round easy.
Tim Legler predicted it last week. He said he believes Sixers will go out in the first round of the playoffs. If they do, it certainly would feel like it's time to make some changes in the process. Meanwhile, baseball yesterday, José Altuve made his spring training debut. They're playing at the Tigers. He was hit in the foot by a pitch in the fifth inning. It did not appear to be intentional. However, earlier, when Altuve came up for his first at-bat, the fans made their feelings very well known.
José Altuve.
So get used to that. And here's Buster Olney. And this is interesting to me, Buster, because Altuve is among the most, or was, among the most beloved players in the sport. Now he's sort of the face of this whole thing. How are he and the Astros, do you think, handling all of this negativity?
Yeah, Greeny, this is the new normal for them. Their first exhibition game last Saturday, Dusty Baker didn't have a single regular in the lineup, and they were booed heavily. All these guys who weren't even on the team in 2017. And after that game, Dusty said, look, you don't have a choice but to put on your big boy pants and go ahead. That's what José Altuve did yesterday. He's booed before that first plate appearance. Later, he hits a double. He's hit by a pitch unintentionally, just jogs to first base and moves on. They have no choice but to handle it in the way Altuve did yesterday.
Or to handle it the best that they can. And this is a team that, look, when all this conversation kind of goes away, they're still a significant title contender. How do you expect all of the negativity to affect them on the field?
And that is a question that a lot of players with other teams have asked me about this spring. They've wondered, how will Altuve handle it over the long season? How will George Springer handle it? How will Alex Bregman handle it? Look, I covered Roberto Alomar, Hall of Famer, when he was booed in every road game after he had that spitting incident. I believed it really affected him and affected the way that he played the game. On the other hand, we saw Barry Bonds get booed all the time. It didn't bother him at all. This is going to be a big question around this team. They finished 10 games ahead of Oakland last year. They lose Garrett Cole, but how they handle the booing will be a big factor.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because there are some players who love to be the villain, and we see it in all sports, and some who don't. It is very seldom an entire team. So there's no question some guys will be adversely impacted by it, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. And this year, an important guy to watch is George Springer. He's a free agent at the end of the 2020 season. He has more on the line than any of his teammates. He had a terrific year last year, 39 homers, a 974 OPS. If he has another good year and wades through all this criticism that he's going to hear, he's going to be the second most coveted position player free agent behind Mookie Betts.
All right, it's going to be a lot of things to watch. Again, they play this afternoon, and on it goes. Buster, well done. Great to see you. As always, we'll check in again tomorrow. We're just getting started on Get Up. As we continue, a couple of XFL rules innovations have caught the eyes of the NFL. There's one we think that the National Football League might adopt, and we'll talk about it. Plus, the Rocket small ball, it's working right now, but could it work in the playoffs? One of our guys says yes. Don't miss it. Just getting started. Get Up, ESPN.